TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. Israel's military establishment has made significant headway in advancing its strategic multi-year plan dubbed Momentum. At least 10 fires broke out over the course of the past 24 hours, at least 4 of which were triggered by incendiary balloons that were sent sailing from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip toward Israel's southern communities. The Arab Gulf Cooperation Council calls upon world powers not to separate between Iran's quest for a nuclear program and its malign activities throughout the Middle East. Israel's military establishment has made significant headway in advancing its strategic multi-year plan dubbed Momentum, or Tnufa in Hebrew. Speaking at a special ceremony in which IDF Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi, awarded citations of excellence to the Israeli Naval Commando Unit Flotilla 13, among others, voiced confidence in progress being made to advance his flagship project, aimed at granting the Israeli Defense Forces a significant qualitative military edge for both defensive and offensive purposes.
לא מעט מהפרויקטים, השיטות, הוקטורים והמאמצים שסיכמנו בתר"ש תנופה שהם הדברים הנכונים שאיתם אנחנו רוצים להתקדם, כבר באו לידי ביטוי בשומר החומות.
As aforementioned, during the ceremony held, General Kochavi granted a certificate of appreciation for exceptional performance in naval campaigns, awarding members of the Israeli Navy, including 4 troops of the Flotilla 13 unit, or Shayetet 13 in Hebrew, who received the special citation alongside the IDF's flotilla of missile boats, the submarine flotilla, and additional classified naval forces. Per an IDF spokesperson's statement, these special commendations were awarded for operational actions in which courage, determination, creativity, composure, and innovation were demonstrated, specifically in the so-called campaign between the wars, which largely focuses on confronting the Islamic Republic of Iran in its quest for regional hegemony.
הביטוי של הצל"שים האלה הוא באמת בכמה רמות. הרמה האחת הוא ביטוי לכך שאנחנו נפגע באויב, נחפש אותו ונפגע בו בכל מקום, ובמקרה שלכם זה באמת בכל מקום. זה באמת בכל מקום, לא בתור סיסמה. בוודאי בכל זמן. הדבר השני שהפעולות האלה מבטאות זה שאין אי אפשר. זה שאין אי אפשר, שגם מה שנראה קשה, או אפילו בלתי אפשרי, אפשרי.
General Kochavi went on to highlight that the maritime operations that ostensibly took place in the Mediterranean, Red Sea, and beyond, for which naval units received these citations, included sophisticated methods in which opportunities to strike the enemy were in most cases shrewdly orchestrated.
אנחנו לא רק מנצלים הזדמנויות, אלא אנחנו גם עושים הזדמנויות. הזדמנויות זה לא דבר שאתה הולך והן פוגשות אותך, או אתה שולח את היד וכותף אותן. זה גם זה, אבל הזדמנויות פעמים רבות, ואם אנחנו יחידה רצינית וצבא רציני וחיל רציני, אז אנחנו עושים את ההזדמנויות האלה. וחיל הים והיחידות המעורבות כאן, וגם שותפים אחרים, יצרו את ההזדמנויות האלה, ולכן חלק מהאנשים הגיעו לכאן, ובצדק הגיעו לכאן.
Turning to southern Israel, where at least 10 fires broke out over the course of the past 24 hours, at least 4 of which were triggered by incendiary balloons that were sent sailing from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. Fire and rescue authorities noted that most of the blazes were promptly extinguished, causing relatively minimal damage to agricultural fields and natural forests. It is worth mentioning that in contrast to the day prior, Israel did not immediately retaliate for the hostilities which emanated from the Palestinian enclave. The reason behind Israel's restraint may be attributed to a working visit which took place earlier today in Cairo by a senior Israeli delegation headed by National Security Council Director Meir Ben Shabbat. The reported aim of the working visit includes discussions related to a long-term truce arrangement between Israel and the Islamist organizations in Gaza, rebuilding the Palestinian enclave, and seeking to secure the release of MIAs and hostages held by Hamas since as early as 2014. Turning to the Swiss city of Geneva, where US President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin concluded a first summit yesterday, during which the two leaders held elaborate discussions on a long list of topics, including arms control, cyber attacks, and other points of contention. In a briefing to the press that followed the meeting, President Biden mentioned that a number of topics related to the Middle East were also discussed.
There's a long list of other things we spent time on, from the urgent need to preserve and reopen the humanitarian corridors in Syria so that we can get food, just simple food and basic necessities, to people who are starving to death. How to build it and how it is in the interest of both Russia and the United States to ensure that Iran does not acquire nuclear weapons. We agreed to work together there because as much as Russia's interest is ours.
The American head of state further noted that alongside offers of Russian assistance to help secure Afghanistan after the nearing departure of NATO, there is mutual understanding between Moscow and Washington regarding the need to thwart Iran's nuclear aspirations and activities.
Now, he asked us about Afghanistan. He said that he hopes that we're able to maintain some peace and security, and I said that has a lot to do with you. He indicated that he was prepared to, quote, help on Afghanistan. I won't go into detail now, and help on Iran, and help on, and in return, we told him about what we wanted to do relative to bringing some stability and economic security, or physical security, to the people of Syria and Libya. So we had those discussions.
Turning to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where the Arab Gulf Cooperation Council held a foreign ministerial to deliberate the indirect nuclear talks taking place in Geneva between the United States and Iran. At the end of the meeting, which was held in Riyadh, the Council made a joint statement in which it called upon the Ayatollah regime in Tehran to take the nuclear negotiations seriously and avoid escalating tensions in the region, while further urging global powers to include the Islamic Republic's malign behavior in the region into any final arrangement.
أكد المجلس الوزاري على ضرورة أن تشتمل مفاوضات اللجنة المشتركة الخاصة بالملف النووي الإيراني الجارية في فيينا أو هيئة مفاوضات أخرى مع إيران معالجة سلوك إيران المزعزع لاستقرار المنطقة ورعايتها للإرهاب والميليشيات الطائفية وبرنامج الصواريخ الإيرانية بما في ذلك الصواريخ البالستية والكروز والطائرات المسيرة في سلة واحدة، مع الأخذ بعين الاعتبار قلق دول المنطقة العميق من الخطوات التصعيدية التي تتخذها إيران لزعزعة الأمن والاستقرار الإقليمي، وأكد على ضرورة مشاركة دول المجلس في المفاوضات الدولية مع إيران. استنكر المجلس الوزاري استمرار إيران في عدم الوفاء بالتزاماتها الوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية ووقف تنفيذ تعهداتها وتأخرها في توفير المعلومات المطلوبة حول برنامجها النووي، وأكد على ضرورة التزام إيران بالتعاون الكامل مع الوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية، خاصة فيما يتعلق بتجاوزاتها في نسب تخصيب اليورانيوم واحترام حصانات وامتيازات مفتشي الوكالة.
Meanwhile, in Tehran, the Islamic Republic is gearing up for its imminent presidential elections scheduled for tomorrow. And while the Ayatollah regime is eager to have a high voter count dispel domestic frustration with its tyrannical activities, many Iranians have openly voiced their intention to shun tomorrow's poll, citing the regime's decision to disqualify all contenders who could have potentially challenged the preferred candidate of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, namely Ayatollah Ibrahim Raisi. Therefore, in a televised address to the nation, the Islamic Republic's Supreme Leader sought to convince the Iranian people that their frustrations were triggered by the West, which he referred to as the satanic centers of power.
مراکز قدرت شیطانی در دنیا، مراکز قدرت‌های شیطانی در همه عالم، اونایی که با جمهوری اسلامی دشمنی میکنن و مخالفت میکنن، با انتخابات هم به طور ویژه مخالفت و معارضه میکنن. در همین انتخابات پس فردای ما، روز جمعه ما، الان چند ماهه که رسانه‌های آمریکایی، رسانه‌های انگلیسی و اون مزدورهایی که زیر پرچم اینها و در این رسانه‌ها مشغول کارن دارن خودشون رو میکشن برای اینکه شاید بتوانن انتخابات رو زیر سوال ببرن، حضور مردم رو کمرنگ کنن و انتخابات جمهوری اسلامی رو به نحوی مورد اتهام قرار بدن.
Khamenei went on to insist that while complaints by the Iranian people over their abysmal living conditions are valid, they should direct these complaints to the future Iranian leadership.
بله، گلایشون گلایه درستی، بایستی به این گلایه ها رسیدگی میشد و دولت آینده حتما بایستی در صدر برنامه های خودش رسیدگی به این قشر ها را قرار بده. اما بحث سر این است که این نرفتن پای صندوق رای و قهر کردن با صندوق رای مشکل رو حل نمیکنه.
Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join the team and me here in Jerusalem to lift up Germany in prayer for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you an Erev Tov U'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.